بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين أما بعد. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد وعلى بارك على محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. اللهم انفعنا بما علمتنا وعلمنا وانفعنا وزدنا علما يا رب العالمين. My dear respected brothers and elders and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah. We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for giving us the tawfiq, for allowing us, mashallah, to partake in studying the Quran during this blessed month of Ramadan. We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for giving us life to Ramadan. May dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us more life after this, inshallah. And that He gives us the successful Ramadan and makes this Ramadan the best Ramadan of our lives, inshallah ta'ala. So we are continuing, mashallah, for everyone who's probably joining for the first time maybe. This is the story of Sayyidina Yusuf a.s. It's part of the bigger theme of the stories of the Quran, which I've been covering since before Ramadan. And so we covered a couple of stories already within Ramadan. And before Ramadan, we actually started on the story of Yusuf a.s. And so this is actually the part 7 of that series, mashallah. And the point again, inshallah, is I hope while everyone is reading the Quran, benefiting whatever way they can, inshallah, within Ramadan, I hope, inshallah, people are also going to benefit by studying the Quran and learning what the Quran is trying to tell us, okay? And so one of the best places where you could understand how to deal with or interact with human beings, or understand how to give a proper message off, is through the story of Sayyidina Yusuf a.s., which I really want to cover, mashallah, and alhamdulillah, we got through about 6 parts already. And now we're going to start the 7th part today. While we're listening to this again, inshallah, I want to remind myself and then everyone else here, is that the maqsad or the goal of our study of this is, number one, is that we want to derive lessons for our own lives, inshallah. Whatever we study from here, we're going to benefit for ourselves. And then the second benefit again is, inshallah, within the month of Ramadan, to connect to the Quran, to understand what the Quran speaks about is it's never considered, an ancient topic or an old topic. Rather, what the Quran is speaking about is something that happens to us on a daily basis. And we can always find guidance through the Quran. So we make dua to Allah and make it easy for us to receive that benefit, inshallah. So without further ado, we'll start. I have a couple of different things today, Ajib, man. So inshallah, let's get started with this, inshallah. So I explained this as in terms of storytelling, right? This is a story told by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has broken it up into certain parts, right? And I explained how the part from Sayyidina Yusuf a.s. from when he was a young boy to the part where basically he gets out of the prison is actually like Act 1, right? Or to the point where he talks to the king is like Act 1, right? And that's what we covered that last time. This time, inshallah, we're going to cover the part where Sayyidina Yusuf a.s. becomes as the acting king, or the minister in charge of the affairs of Egypt at the time, okay? And so that's where we're going to begin from, inshallah. And I encourage everyone, if you'd like to hear the other parts, they're all put up on Sharia Board New York's Mixler, that you can listen to the previous sections as well. So without further ado, inshallah, let's get started. Okay. So I just wanted to make sure everyone was inside. Let's make sure to. There you go. Okay. So let's continue, inshallah. Okay. So Sayyidina Yusuf a.s., we want to first highlight the fact that, mashallah, he's developed so much. Okay. So, in terms of his life, what we see is that he went through dealing with slave traders in the beginning, right? Before that, he dealt with his brothers. Before that, he dealt with his father. He's interacted with so many different types of people. And again, his miracle in the story is the fact that he can deliver the right message at the right time, right? Ta'wil al-hadith. He's able to interpret speech. He knows what people are implying, what people are saying in front of him, okay? And the highest level of interpretation, again, is that he can interpret dreams, okay? So now, in terms of him interacting with the slave traders, he became like a son to the minister. And so now within the minister's private quarters, he's able to see how the minister interacts with people, how a politician speaks to people. All these different things are also felt by Sayyidina Yusuf a.s. Okay? Then, of course, the very famous incident of Zulaykha, the Zulaykha scandal, and the woman. Yusuf a.s. also went through that as well. And so he's learned about how criminals act and how people who are oppressive or treacherous or do khiyana within the society and how to deal with them as well. And then Sayyidina Yusuf a.s. goes through life in prison. So he's literally around criminals all the time. He's gone from basically seeing terrible people like slave traders who will trade off a child, a boy, that they find within a well, to being a son to a minister who's also a politician, who also has some backwardness, because you see him trying to cover up his own scandals. And then the Zulaykha situation, the woman situation, then life in prison and giving dawah to these people as well. But you find Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam go through all these different scenarios in his life. Okay, and then finally he's being exonerated and freed. Right, he's going to the king, and then by the king he's noticed at this time, after interpreting the king's dream, and everyone should be aware of this, right? That when he interpreted the dream, that 7 years will be of famine, and 7 years will be or 7 years will be of plentiful food, and then the next 7 years will be of famine and drought. So those first 7 years, someone needs to make sure to cultivate the land properly and to make sure we grow as much as we can for the harvest, and in that time prepare for this next 7 years. And so Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam, in the first 7 years, he say, he notices that a person who has to be very responsible to take care of the job. And then secondly, within the 7 years of famine, what this person needs to do is to make sure that the food gets delivered to the people. Okay, so this can't be done by anyone else. So Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam appoints himself and says, I'm the man for the job. I can do it. Right? I can do it. I can handle it. So, and then he goes to the king and says, Inni hafizun alim, not because of the fact that only that Yusuf alayhi salam can handle it, but also because of the fact that Yusuf alayhi salam has seen politicians. His entire life has been dealing with these people, and he knows very well that if you put them in this position, they're not going to provide anyone with any food. They're just going to take care of their own stomachs. And this is the case in the scenario of today, even with a lot of these countries that are trying to do this stimulus package, right? They're trying to provide a package to their citizens of the country. And so what happens is that although they might provide like lakh or like thousands of dollars or of taka or like rupees or whatever, what happens is the middleman in between eats up all the money. And so when the poor people actually come to get anything from the government, they can't get anything at all, right? So this is what Yusuf alayhi salam is dealing with. So then what happens is what? He's entrusted with the treasures of Egypt, mashallah. Okay? And then finally, which most of the scholars say, that Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam is actually entrusted with the kingship. He's actually entrusted with the monarchy of Egypt at that time. They say that the king, he bestowed Yusuf alayhi salam with the crown, and he bestowed him with the ring and said, Yusuf, you be the king, you take care of the affairs, because this matter is way too difficult for the king to handle. It's way too difficult for the king to handle. So that's what he says to Yusuf alayhi salam. Okay, so now that's one interpretation of maybe Yusuf alayhi salam became the king. Another interpretation, which is also possible, is that Yusuf alayhi salam just maintained being like the, like you have someone who is the propped up king on the throne, which is going to be the official king of Egypt, and there's actually a person who's taking care of the affairs of the government, right? So you have like the queen of England, right? She's just there, but the prime minister and everyone else, the parliament, everyone takes care of the different responsibilities of the country and everything like that. So it's possible Yusuf alayhi salam is either actually the king, or he is just the person who's taking care of all the affairs, and the king says that you take care of it. And he tells people too, it's mentioned in different narrations, that the king actually tells the people, anyone who comes to him, says, go to Yusuf, he'll take care of you, okay? So now, subhanAllah, what we need to understand, a lesson that we need to derive from here. Look at the life that Yusuf went through. Really, look at the life that he went through. He went through being with slave traders, son to a minister, Zulaykha scandal, life in prison, dawah, being exonerated and freed, then entrusted with the treasures of Egypt. He's lived a full life. Really, he's lived a full life. Like this is the part in the story. Where you're like, man, Yusuf alayhi salam is the man. He is the boss. He went through all these things and he came out on top, right? But this is not a lesson just for Yusuf alayhi salam. This is a lesson for you and I, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like we were speaking about this concept of being a khalifa of Allah, the same way Adam alayhi salam was in the beginning, right? Allah ta'ala will develop us as well into this khalifa, quote unquote, that we can become, meaning that responsible figure, that representative of Allah ta'ala on the earth. Allah ta'ala can make us into that too, if we submit and be patient with the training, okay? What it requires is, imagine at any point in this story, if Yusuf said, I want to give up. After being with the slave traders, I'm just going to be with the minister. I will submit to this. Well, again, hypothetically speaking, he's a prophet. He'll never do it, right? But like the idea of like just giving up. Zulaykha scandal is too hard. I don't want to fight for my, how am I going to fight? I'm a slave. How am I going to fight for my rights? How am I going to come out with my honor? All these things, right? Or life in prison. Let me just give up. Why even bother telling this guy to mention by the king? Let me just give up here, right? Every single point Yusuf could have given up. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shows us very clearly in the story, after Zulaykha scandal, after life in prison, being exonerated and freed, there's so many places where Yusuf could just say, you know what, I'm going to Canaan, I'm out of here. I don't want to be here anymore. But Yusuf sticks in with he goes through the thick and thin, He handles every situation very well,
to the point that Allah Ta'ala trains Yusuf A.S. throughout these things. He's patient with Allah Ta'ala's plan, and so alhamdulillah becomes who he's supposed to become. Now what happens is we can also get that. We also go through difficulties in our life. People have difficulties. This is part of life, that we're going to have some difficult times. Sometimes in the da'wah effort, we give da'wah to this person who doesn't accept Islam at all, right? Sometimes it's dealing with our brothers and sisters. Sometimes it's dealing with our parents. Sometimes it's going through a really bad divorce. Sometimes it's going through like a person dying in our family. There's the pandemic outside. There's so much that's happening that we are also being trained by Allah, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is seeing what we will do. Okay, but you and I need to do in these times is be patient. This is training from Allah. No one said training is going to be easy, but but from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah Ta'ala will make it easy for us to get through it, inshallah. Okay, but getting through it is the goal, not giving up. Do not give up. Many times people tell me this, like, oh man, Shaykh, I feel fake. I feel so fake. Every time I worship Allah, I feel fake. I don't want to do this anymore. We feel pressured sometimes too. Like, oh man, this deen is so hard. I got to put on the hijab all the time. I got to come for salah all the time. I got to do all these things. It's just too much work to do, right? And then what happens is what? We sometimes feel like we can't do anything at all. Look at us now. We're all making tarawih at home. Like it just makes us feel so depressed and sad, right? Look at the situation. We're not able to do anything at times, right? But I want everyone to know that you're not supposed to give up at these times. This is also part of the training of Allah. This is also part of the training of Allah. How so? Because that feeling of feeling fake, okay, means what? That you felt like you were real at one time, but you were never real. You and I were never real. How can I say I was real in front of Allah? Like I was actually worshipping Him properly? That's not possible. Actually, you feeling fake is probably better than everything else, mashallah. Because that's actually showing, like a shaykh has said very beautifully, the shuyukh have written, they've said that if that a person who wakes up feeling miserable after missing tahajjud at nighttime is better than a man or a woman who spends the entire night making qiyamul layl and then boasting about it when they wake up in the morning. Okay? The fact that a person feels regretful is the best type of ibadah they can do. Okay? Now in these times you will feel pressure. You will feel difficulty. You will feel like you can't do anything. It's fine. It's part of the training. But you're never supposed to give up. Allah Ta'ala is pushing you. He's putting you to the limit, and then He's going to see where you're going to go after that. It's part of the training to not give up, even when everything doesn't feel like it used to be. Okay? We're not worshiping feelings here. We're worshiping Allah. If you really worship Allah, you'll know that the situation will change around you, but Allah will never change. Allah will continue to give. Allah is Kareem. Allah is Rahim. Allah is Rahman. Allah that created you and I, He's our Rabb. He takes care of us. There's no reason to ever give up on Allah, even though whatever you and I feel can just come and go. These are feelings. Feelings will come and go. You're feeling like one thing right now because you're inside this pandemic situation. Guaranteed 3-4 months down the line, it will feel like nothing at all. It'll feel like nothing at all, inshallah. But don't get stuck in the feeling. Don't get stuck in the situation. You and I have an eternal life to live in Jannah. You understand that? Continue walking the straight path. It will lead to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at the end, inshallah. Okay? So now, subhanAllah, let's go back to Yusuf a.s. and let's get back to what his story is, right? He's entrusted with taking care of the economy and the lives of the people in general, right? Not just the economy here, but in terms of the people as well. So what does he have to do? And we spoke about this a little bit last time as well, that he has to harvest the stocks of grain for 7 years, that all this grain has to be grown. So he has to maximize the amount of area, the revenue that he can produce of grain, and he needs to cultivate as much land as possible. He needs to find which spots in Egypt are the best to cultivate more and more grain, so that way he can produce the utmost output, the highest level of revenue before this drought happens, right? So he has to do that. Along with that, what does he have to do? He has to consider the population size of Egypt, right? Because he has to make sure there's enough grain to last the entire population, as well as consider the countries that are around Egypt as well, because they're going to be coming for grain as well. So he has to consider those people as well, right? So then what do we find? He has to make a stimulus package for every person to last a year or even longer throughout the entire 7 years, okay? So Yusuf has to think about a lot of things. This is not an easy plan for anyone to ever make, okay? And so subhanAllah, so in order to make sure this is handled well, like I told you about people stealing the wealth of the people or stealing grain to feed their own stomachs, which happens very commonly in a lot of societies, what we find is this, subhanAllah, we find that if you're not the person taking care of the applications, there's a chance that people are going to take some in the middle. So Yusuf a.s. made sure to meet every single applicant personally. He would meet them and made a plan. He said that you just give a little bit of your savings or a little bit of the merchandise that you sell and come to me, and then you give it to us. And then what happens is what? We'll give you a grain for the entire year or even longer than the year, right? Per person of your family, Okay, provided you bring everyone with you. Okay, a camel's load of grain for every person in the family will be given depending on how many people they had, of course, and they consider mother and father. And so whichever, so for example, like if like 10 people came into the room, which will happen in a little bit, right? 10 people came into the room for Yusuf alayhi salam. He would give them 10 loads of 10 camel loads because they have 10 people there, and another 2 on the top because of what? Because of mother and father, right? They would consider that as well, because he probably would say that the mother and father can come, right? So now this is what a government should do in times of crises. I don't wanna point fingers, but this is exactly what a government should do. Make sure that we understand how big is the problem. Make sure we're considering what's the city look like, what's a town look like, what's a rural area look like, what's an urban area look like, right? These are different things you have to consider, and then you got to give money according to that. Not just like, oh, let's give like a flat rate of this much money. Go ahead, see if you can survive on that. Because surviving in like rural Kansas is not like surviving in New York. 2 different levels of survival. Like peanut butter, like when I came to Massachusetts, peanut butter is pretty cheap here. I won't lie. New York is like $7, $8, like for like a freaking like it's what the heck, So you have to, it's different levels of survival, So it would have been made a lot of sense to give people hand sanitizer according to what they need. Shut it all down and say, the government will distribute it. Or like, Scott toilet paper. Let's make sure everyone gets enough Scott for the year or whatever. Like you can plan these things out, but it takes a proper person to plan these things. And Yusuf alayhi handles it because why? He's a man of Allah. He knows that if I don't do this right, the people is one thing, but Allah Ta'ala will be upset at me, and I can't handle that. So Yusuf does it very well. He does his job to the T, mashallah. Okay? And how do we know this? There are different narrations, mashallah. Sayyidina Yusuf is reported about him. They will not eat to his full. And it will be told to him, Yusuf alayhi salam, oh Yusuf, the people are hungry, and you are also going hungry. That's what they would tell him. And Yusuf will respond and say, he said, Akhsha in shabi'atu ansal ja'i'a. He said that I fear that if I became full, I would forget the hungry person. So Yusuf will make sure not to eat his full because he wanted to make sure he could feel the hunger. That's what you and I do for this Ramadan, by the way. What you and I forget, unfortunately speaking, what you and I forget is this, that we forget that the fasting is supposed to make us understand that there are people out there who actually need help, and we are the people to help them. What we find is this, and this is the reality, is that when Eid will come up, right, people are going to go and shop for themselves. Okay, Eid is not about buying buying new clothes. Eid is just wearing your best clothes. You want to remember this. Okay, so now let's think about it here, and I just want everyone to consider it. You don't have to. I'm not pushing a fatwa on you or whatever. But let's consider, how about this, that, subhanAllah, I'm going to enjoy my Eid regardless of having new clothes or not. But there will be a certain family out there, a certain Muslim family, or even a non-Muslim family, that on the day of Eid, right, people should feel happy. But they might not be able to feel happy because they have no money. Or that the fact that they have to suffer because they have to pay rent, or they don't have enough food. Maybe instead of buying myself new clothes, I buy someone else new clothes. How about I consider that, inshallah? This might be a better way to show how Muslim I am. Instead of looking at how selfish I can be, let's see how selfless we can be, inshallah. Okay? So Yusuf alayhi salam would handle it so well. Now, at this point of the story, if we're talking about a story, right? This is where you're thinking the story should be over. Like literally the book should be closed at this moment, because you're seeing him. He triumphs over every single enemy of his life. Between the slave traders, between the house of the minister, between the wife of Zulaykha. He's come out on top, right? This is literally the part of the story where you're like, story's over. Act is done, we're finished. But then you all know, and we should all be aware, that this is not where the story finishes. This is where the brothers enter. Okay? وَجَاءَ إِخْوَةُ يُوسُفَ فَدَخَلُوا عَلَيْهِ فَعَرَفَهُمْ وَهُمْ لَهُ مُنْكِرُونَ. Okay? That the brothers of Yusuf enter on him, and he recognizes them while they did not recognize him. Okay? We'll get into this ayah in a second. Right? So let's continue now with the story. The true antagonist of the story, the true actual people who are against Yusuf is not the slave traders, it's not the house of the minister, it's not even the Zulaykha, the wife of the minister. It's no one like that. In reality, the true antagonist, if you're talking about a story, who's against our protagonist, who's against the main character, is actually the brothers of Yusuf Okay? These are the ones whose hearts need to be corrected the most. These are the ones whose actions need to be corrected the most. It's these brothers here. Right? And it's been years, and I think everyone's probably aware of this, we probably noticed this. It's like there's like a time skip, you'll see on the screen, it'll say like 20 years later, or 7 years later, or 10 years later, right? And you see Yusuf on the throne, people are coming in, he's giving out loads of grain to them, and then finally this group of 10 people come into the room. And then he looks at all of them, right? And now a time skip just happened, right? You're seeing, and because since we've been watching the story from the beginning, we already see that these are the same brothers from the beginning. And Yusuf looks completely different now, because now he's a completely changed man. It's been so many years. He's developed so much. So we see that a time skip should show some development. to show some change, right? We're hoping for the change. And so they speak to their brother Yusuf alayhi after so long, okay? Now Yusuf alayhi goes and asks them, and the entire conversation is not in the Quran. We only get two snippets from the story in the Quran, but we all can understand. Yusuf alayhi would ask them, who are you? What's your names? Where did you come from? Do you have a father? Do you have a mother? How big is your family? All these things will be asked, right? And Yusuf would say, okay, what do you have to give for the grain? And then he would take it, and then he would give them the grain, right? All this stuff will be happening, right? And so he asked them about the father, mother, etc., right? But the thing is that they're looking at his face, and they're like, I feel like he's Yusuf, but he can't be Yusuf, right? So now Yusuf recognizes them because why? Because they're his older brothers. Obviously, because they're your older brothers, their faces won't change too much. You know, if you take like a passport photo, for example, like, you know, a baby passport photo, obviously it doesn't look like the kid when he's 6 or 7, right? It looks completely different, right? But if you take a passport photo at 18, 20, 25, 28, 30, right? It's all the same, really. It's just a little bit different. Sometimes the beard grows, sometimes the beard doesn't grow, whatever, right? But in reality, they all kind of look the same. So, you know, but here he looks way too different. So looking at him like his face is not, I can't be Yusuf, right? So like you can imagine they're all like whispering to each other. Only one of them talking Yusuf. The rest of them like, you think he's Yusuf? You think he's Yusuf? Like, but they're looking at him like, nah, look at him. He's a king. He's sitting on the throne with servants busy with all this different stuff. Like he's not Yusuf, right? And then, but and the interesting part is this, is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not say they don't recognize him. Allah said they rejected him. Munkir, they did inkar of him, right? They rejected him. If you heard it in Arabic, you're like munkirun, means someone who rejects it. What does that mean? Is that they don't accept it. They're talking to themselves, and they're like, nah, it cannot be Yusuf. It just can't be Yusuf. They're telling, the thought is coming to their mind, because again, even though he's grown up so much, still certain similar features, certain similar things will come out, and you'll be like, yeah, that's definitely my brother. You can tell certain things about your brothers, right? And you're like, yeah, that's definitely my brother. But they kept telling themselves in their minds that he should be dead by now. There's no way he should be alive. So they denied the thought in their minds that he could be there. So they consider himself to be dead. They consider him to be dead, right? So now what happens is what? Yusuf alayhi salam sees them. وَلَمَّا جَهَّزَهُم بِجَهَازِهِمْ, he prepares for them their provisions. قَالَ ائْتُونِي بِأَخٍ لَكُم مِّنْ أَبِيكُمْ, they speak to him and say, we also have a brother that we can also collect his camel load as well. Yusuf alayhi salam says, قَالَ ائْتُونِي بِأَخٍ لَكُم مِّنْ أَبِيكُمْ, bring this other brother from your father's side to me. Okay? He says it in a very long way for a specific reason, and we'll get to that in a second. أَلَا تَرَوْنَ أَنِّي أُوفِي الْكَيْلَ وَأَنَا خَيْرُ الْمُنزِلِينَ. He says that, don't you see how I give full measure and I extend the hospitality, right? He goes and says, فَإِن لَمْ تَأْتُونِي بِهِ, and if you do not bring him to me, فَلَا كَيْلَ لَكُمْ عِنْدِي, then you deserve no further measure from me. وَلَا تَقْرَبُونَ, and you can never come close to me ever again. Meaning what? You have no reason to be here. There's no more access for you. Yusuf alayhi salam, let's get back to what he said here. Yusuf alayhi salam does two things within these two lines of these two ayat. Number one is that he encourages them. Okay, if we're looking at it, he encourages them. He says, bring your brother from your father. And he tells them that, don't you see how, number one, don't I fulfill what you desired? You came to me and I gave you what you want, right? So he made them understand that I gave you what you wanted. And then the second thing is that he tells them, وَأَنَا خَيْرُ الْمُنزِلِينَ, he is pampering them. He's not, whenever he invites people to come in, and they came from a far off land, he will cater them and be hospitable to them like a proper host. They took hospitality to a serious matter. They're like, no, it shows how generous I am. So he made sure, mashallah, to take care of them, gave them a place to stay, gave them accommodations, food and drink, and a place to sleep, everything. And he showed them, he says, وَأَنَا خَيْرُ الْمُنزِلِينَ, don't you see how I'm have you ever seen a better host than me? Have you ever seen a better host than me? He encourages them, number one. And number two, what Yusuf does is that he warns them. He warns them and he says, if you do not bring him, then you will not find any more measure by me. There's nothing else I can give you. And second thing is that, look, we have zero tolerance for squatters. If you wait here and think you'll get more from me, I ain't giving you nothing. So Yusuf is being very strict on the matter. He said, look, we have to give everyone proper camel loads. I can't give you any more. It's kind of like, I'm not going to say like, it's kind of like the DMV or the RMV, but like, it's kind of like that where like, the person at the desk is only going to give you what they're supposed to give you. Okay, so Yusuf makes it very clear. He's like, look, I can give you more, but you have got to bring him here. And if you don't, I'm not going to give you anything else. Because we got an entire population to feed. I can't give you guys any special treatment. Okay, but he does give certain special treatments, which we'll talk about in a second. So now this is by the way, if a person wants to take a lesson from here, the lesson here is that when you're giving a good bayan, is having both encouragement and warnings. A person should leave a bayan and think that, wow, he encouraged me to do some actions, and at the same time, I'm warned to make sure to avoid certain things. Right? And if I don't do the action, what's going to happen? So for example, you sit for a salah bayan and you hear subhanallah that Allah Ta'ala will, whoever prays the 5 times daily prayers, Allah Ta'ala will, he made a promise, enter into the Jannah, right? The Prophet said that the key to Jannah is salah, right? At the same time, you hear the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, which says that, whoever misses salah on a regular, whoever abandons salah, he'll be raised on the day of judgment with Fir'aun, Haman, and Qarun, right? The worst people that you can ever raise with Qiyamah. Nabi Sallallahu said that. So you're like, wow, I really need to pray, and I better not miss prayer. So you have that same feeling. That's the combination of this beautiful speech that Yusuf AS brings in front of us. Again, he knows how to deliver a message. And the most amazing thing that he does is that he made it crystal clear that he does not know Binyamin. He said, bring your brother that you have from your father. Okay? So it's as if he's reading an application saying, so this brother you have from your father, you need to bring him into the room too. He doesn't say, bring your brother. He doesn't say, bring your brother. Because why? Because it could show off a little bit of a hint that maybe I know him. And they already are rejecting in their minds that he's not Yusuf. So they're fighting with their minds right now. So Yusuf has to make sure that he doesn't even bring a single hint in their hearts that, yeah, I'm Yusuf. He makes it very clear. That's how intelligent he is. That's how developed he's become in speech. That he's made sure, mashallah, to catch every single point, to make sure not to miss a single dot on every single eye that he speaks, mashallah. Okay? So now we continue. So now let's look at the brothers. Okay? So now this is how much Yusuf AS has developed. His speech has become so deep and complex. He's able to give a bayan in 2 ayats and to make sure to check every single thing that he needs to check. Now let's look at the brothers. Let's see how much they developed after like 20, at least if you're taking like the bare minimum, how much time has passed. If you're taking like bare minimum, how much he spent in the jail, how much he spent with the minister, how much he spent, with taking care of like the 7 years of famine and whatever. At least you're going to say 20 years have passed. Bare minimum, 20 years have passed. Let's see how much the brothers have changed, right? Let's see how much the brothers have changed, right? We're all excited here, right? Yeah, we'll convince his dad to bring him, and we'll surely do it, right? They haven't learned anything after 20 whole years. What does this mean? They said, we'll seduce his dad, we'll convince him, we'll be slick with him, we'll bring him from his father, we'll surely do it, okay? Now, why is it that how do we know they haven't learned anything? Okay, number one is that you don't say that about your father. We're going to do murawada, right? This word rawada, if you remember this word, we spent a little bit of time on it when we spoke about Zulaykha. It is the same word Allah uses for Zulaykha, that she tried to seduce Yusuf. She tried to entice him. The same exact word the brothers use in front of Yusuf AS himself. Okay, they're using the same word that Zulaykha tried to make Yusuf AS commit zina. The same word they're saying, you know what? We're going to convince our dad to bring him we're going to convince his dad to allow him to come with us. How do we know they haven't learned anything? Because this is the same thing that they told their dad years back when they said to bring Yusuf AS to go out to play, right? It's the same exact thing. They haven't learned anything. And so they said we will be slick with his dad to get him away from Binyamin away from their dad. They didn't say our father. They said his father, which is a very ajib thing. Like if you should be nice and respectful when you're talking to a minister or a king. You should say, we'll convince our father to bring him. They said, no, we'll convince his father that will bring him, right? As if they're not associating themselves, because when you want to do something evil, you got to disassociate yourself. She's not my wife. She's a woman that I brought into my house, right? When we want to yell at someone, we say that, no, this woman is staying in my house because she came into my house. She's not my wife or the mother of my kids. No, that's too close for me. You got to distance yourself in order to create that disattachment or separation. That way you can do something evil. That's what we're learning here. So be very careful. Whenever we want to do something haram, we'll notice ourselves disassociating ourselves with people. Or like, my mom and dad, if we want to say something bad about them, we'll say that his dad or his mom. For example, in our brothers, right? If I want to say something, a little bit rude or something, I'll say your father instead of my dad, right? Because it might come off, I don't want to associate that with myself, right? And sometimes when we want to commit a sin, we'll say that your Lord will forgive, we won't connect ourselves with Allah, because if we connect ourselves with Allah, then that'll cause that danger too, okay? So there's no mention of Allah from them at all. You probably noticed this as well, okay? They don't speak about Allah at all, right? So we continue, inshallah. وَقَالَ لِفِتْيَانِهِ جَعَلُوا بِضَاعَةٌ فِي رِحَالِهِمْ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَعْرِفُونَهَا إِذَا انْقَلَبُوا إِلَىٰ أَهْلِهِمْ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْجِعُونَ. Okay? So now Yusuf AS tells his boys, meaning the worker boys in the castle, in the palace, he tells them to place their provisions in their packs so that perhaps they will recognize it when they go back to their family, so that perhaps they will return. Okay? So Sayyidina Yusuf AS tells them, he makes it very clear, and he says to all of them that he says to all of them that, he tells all of his workers that just put something in there, put all their money that they came with, put it back into their bags, and so that maybe they'll see it when they get back home and they'll return with it. We'll see why Yusuf AS did this in a second, inshallah. Let's continue for what happens when the boys actually go back home. Okay? When they go back home, their job is now to convince their dad. Okay? But they say what? فَلَمَّا رَجُعُوا إِلَىٰ أَبِيهِمْ قَالُوا يَا أَبَانَا مُنِعَ مِنَ الْكَيْلِ فَأَرْسِلْ مَعَنَا أَخَانَا نَكْتَلْ وَإِنَّا لَهُ لَحَافِظُونَ. They say, oh father, that we were prohibited, we didn't get the full measure because we need, and so give us, send, the same word they use for Yusuf alayhi salam years back. Send Yusuf with us, send Binyamin with us, Naktal, we'll get the full measure, wa inna lahu lahafizun, and we will guard him, we will protect him. The same exact thing they say to you about Yusuf alayhi salam years back is the same words they're using for Binyamin here. Okay? But this is the strange thing here, is that before it was a lie, they weren't going to protect him. Now they're telling the truth. Dad, honestly, we're going to protect him, inshallah. We're going to make sure he's okay. Right? But what happens is this, is that Yaqub alayhi salam does not buy it. قال هل آمنكم عليه إلا كما منكم على أخيه من قبل. Should I trust you like how I trusted you on his brother from before? فالله خير حافظا. Allah Ta'ala is a better protector. I don't need your protection. Allah will protect him. وهو أرحم الراحمين. Allah Ta'ala is the most merciful of those who have mercy, mashallah. Okay? So now what do we see here? We want to break this down here. Yaqub alayhi salam, the prophet and the father, right? He's both a prophet and he's both a father. This is the first time we're hearing about him after so many years. Okay? If you're talking about development, right? Let's look at his development. He's lost a son, right? He's lost a son. He has to live with those that took his son away from him. For years on end, he had to live with those people that he knows that took his son away from him. But he deals with them like a father. He never changes his role. He never even brings it up that you guys lost Yusuf, okay? We understand this from the way he's speaking right now. It's as if the first time he's ever telling them about Yusuf. Again, after so many years, he's never even brought up the subject with them because he doesn't want to bring up some bad wounds or bad emotions, okay? He never changes his role as a father. This is why Allah Ta'ala describes in the Quran as beautiful patience, sabrun jameel, because beautiful patience would mean that the people that wronged you, if you want to be sabr jameel, then the people who wronged you, you still treat them the same way you used to treat them from before they wronged you. You still never change your attitude, you never change your behavior. That's what shows that you're sabr jameel, okay? So he deals with them like a father still. But what do we find? The development and change of Yaqub alayhi salam is this concept here of what? We are good people, but we're not foolish people. Believers are good people, but they are not foolish whatsoever. What does this mean? Yaqub alayhi salam had trusted them before, but only considering that they will at least come back with Yusuf alayhi salam. Before, when he trusted them, he said that, you know what, at least they'll come back with Yusuf. I don't think they'll do anything bad or anything worse than that. But now he realized and he recognizes that they never came back with Yusuf alayhi salam, and they'll never come back with Yaqub, with Binyamin either. They won't come back with Binyamin either. So the Prophet ﷺ said, a believer is not bit from the same hole twice. You're not bitten from the same hole twice means that if you were stabbed once from one guy or one person, you at least learn your lesson to make sure that never happens again, right? You want to make sure that never happens again. And that's part of being a good Muslim. That's part of being a good Muslim. So you forgive, like they say in English, you forgive, but you do not forget. So Yaqub alayhi salam, he has dealt with his sons in a beautiful way for about 20, 25, 30 years. But now he tells them, reminds them that, look, I haven't forgotten what you've done with Yusuf. And that's being a good Muslim here. So it is not against Islam to make sure you're careful that if someone wrongs you or stabs you in the back once, you don't get stabbed again, right? So now we go and continue. So he's made it clear, and they were shut down at that moment. They're not going to speak again because the dad brought up Yusuf, right? And they're too embarrassed to say anything afterwards. They're too embarrassed to say anything. وَلَمَّا فَتَحُوا مَتَاعَهُمْ وَجَدُوا بِضَاعَةٍ رُدَّتْ إِلَيْهِمْ قَالُوا يَا أَبَانَا مَا نَبْغِي. So when they opened their baggage though, they found that Yusuf ﷺ did them a favor, okay? They found their goods be given back to them. They say, Father, look, what else do we want? This is our goods that were given back to us, and we shall bring food to our family, and we shall protect our brother, and add one more measure. This is an easy measure, Dad, right? Yusuf ﷺ, he is very well aware, because again, he's a believer, and he's a Nabi as well. He knows his father, who's a Nabi, is not going to listen to them, because the believer is not bit from the same hole twice. So what Yusuf ﷺ does is, he does them a favor. He puts back the money back in their baggage to show their dad that they're telling the truth. Because they're saying that, oh, there's this generous king and he's going to give us one more camel load. He doesn't buy any of these things. He's like, you guys are lying to me. Okay, he doesn't believe them. So what Yusuf does very intelligently is that he puts the money back to show them, yes, this is a generous king. They went with all this money to give to the king, and the king gave everything back. So now the dad knows that he can trust their story. Okay. So then they say, Dad, we'll just get one more measure. We'll get one more measure. So now Yaqub alayhi salam goes and tells them, لَنْ أُرْسِلَهُ مَعَكُمْ حَتَّى تُؤْتُونِي مَوْثِقًا مِنَ اللَّهِ. He says, look, I will never send him with you until you give me a pledge in the name of Allah. You swear by Allah that you will bring him back, except that if you are overpowered or cornered into a very difficult circumstance. And so then they promise and say, Wallahi, Dad, we give the name of Allah. They're still the sons of prophets, mind you. So when they take the name of Allah, it's serious. So they say, Wallahi, Dad, we will bring him back. قال اللهم على ما نقول وكيل. We trust Allah Ta'ala on what we say, okay, and what we have said. So now Yaqub alayhi salam continues and tells them, وقال يا بني لا تدخلوا من باب واحدة. It says, oh my children, don't enter through one door, and instead enter through many doors. And I can't prevent anything from happening from Allah Ta'ala to you at all. The hukum, the ruling is from Allah, the command is from Allah. Upon him I trust, and upon him to the people who whoever needs to trust will trust on. Okay? If you need to trust on someone, you trust on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? That's what it says. Those who can trust, to trust him. So what we're learning from these couple of ayat, we're going to go back now and just recap inshallah what we just learned. Is that number one, Yaqub alayhi salam is talking about the evil eye. Yaqub alayhi salam is talking about the evil eye. The evil eye is the reality here. Okay? The Prophet said, al-aynu haq, that when people can give bad nazar, right? The nazar is the reality here. The ayn is the reality. And it's the enemies which you cannot see which are the most dangerous, right? Yaqub alayhi salam has a very good habit, mashallah. He goes and tells you about those things which people are normally not aware of. What are we talking about? In the beginning of the story, when he speaks to Yusuf AS, he tells them about shaitan. So be careful of shaitan. And here he's telling us about the evil eye. Right? Yaqub alayhi salam is a Nabi, so he's making sure to be aware of the enemy that you cannot see. The Prophet ﷺ said, if there was anything to outstrip destiny, if something could ever beat qadr, the Prophet said, لَسَبَقَتُ الْعَيْنِ, that the evil eye would beat that. What does that mean? It means that we should be very careful about putting up pictures and images and photos, because why, a person can just give a bad glance, be jealous of whatever we have, and destroy that thing for us. Okay? And I remind everyone about pictures of children. Be very careful of pictures of children, or even pictures of yourself. You might be a very attractive or handsome guy or girl, whatever. You know, don't want it to be ruined by all these freckles and all these like pimples and all these nut stuff that come out, right? Be very careful. The Prophet informs us of how dangerous a glance can be. This is the reality here. Okay? So why did Yaqub alayhi salam tell them to go through different doors? He wanted them to be safe, right? Because he said, my sons are very attractive. Whenever they go through one door, people are probably looking at them. A very impressive group of people, you know? Let's go through different doors to be safe, right? That's what he makes sure to do. Yaqub alayhi salam always directs to unseen enemies like we spoke about, right? And now Yaqub alayhi salam teaches us about precaution. This is the last lesson that we learned here. Is that along with the believer not being bit from the same hole twice, he takes an oath from his sons this time. He didn't take it from before. He makes sure to take some precaution here. He says, sons, I'm going to take an oath from Allah and you all. And he also tells them to go through different doors, okay? Now, I want everyone to recognize this, that brother, you know, like, imagine like a sheikh told you, okay, make sure you're careful, make sure you wear a mask, make sure you don't shake people's hands, make sure you do this, stay a little bit away. Brother, don't you have tawakkul? Brother, don't you have tawakkul? That's what we say. Like, where's your tawakkul go? You know, la ilaha illallah, astaghfirullah, brother, astaghfirullah, you should have tawakkul in Allah, you should trust Allah. Allah will feed you. Allah, like he feeds the birds, he'll feed you. Right? We say these things. Allah, you know, yeah, fine, okay, never put a spoon to your mouth again. Never eat like you want to, because why? Just sit down just sit at home, wait for Jibril to come and feed you, okay? You know, if that's what you understand tawakkul to mean, okay? And then what do we find? Yaqub alayhi salam tells you, I trust Allah. He says in the ayah, I trust Allah. So what are we understanding here? That tawakkul does not mean that you don't take asbab, you don't take means. Tawakkul is what? You know how Allah's creation works, and you're going with using the means, trusting Allah to do it. Okay, that if I take whatever means here, like for example, I eat food, but I know the feeling of feeling full is going to come from Allah. I take some sleep, but I know that the sleep is not going to provide it. Allah will provide the refreshment or the feeling of feeling like I rested well. I understand Allah will do these things. Okay, so what does this mean? Sahil at-Tustari rahimahullah ta'ala, Sahil at-Tustari rahimahullah says, tawakkul is the sunnah of the heart, and taking means is the sunnah of the hands. Right? It's very beautiful. He says, if you're going to do tawakkul, that's in your heart. And taking means is the sunnah of the hands, right? And so this is the greatest of and the greatest of all means, by the way, is ibadah. Now people are taking all these means in this time of COVID-19, whatever. Have you prayed 2 rakats every day? Have we actually done anything to show sadaqah, sacrifice, anything to show Allah, Ya Allah, I need some help? The best way to ask Allah, or to not even taking regular means, is to make dua and actually pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? So now the final part is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the behind the scenes as a narrator. And so when they entered from where their dad commanded them to do, right, they listened to their father, they did exactly what their dad told them to do. But what happens is what? It does not benefit them at all. Allah said it didn't benefit them at all, except some feeling in the heart that Yaqub alayhi salam had. He had a feeling in his heart that he had to satisfy. right? But Allah Ta'ala says that that's because he's the father, he wants to care for his children, that's fine. But Allah Ta'ala says he does have knowledge by us, but majority of the people don't know. Meaning what taking means is from the knowledge of Allah, that you know that the means can't do anything, but we still have to take the means. This is what Muslims understand from the beginning, right? So they did everything right, but Allah Ta'ala's will is much greater than that. Okay, now you did your best, now leave Allah Ta'ala with the rest. Now you and I have done everything we can. We've literally shut our doors to everyone. We've made sure to do everything right. Now, subhanAllah, look, if anything happens, you know Allah is planning something. Now you did everything. You tried to avoid the coronavirus, whatever, and then it happened. La ilaha Allah to protect us. I'm just saying, if it happened, then you know Allah has a bigger plan here. Similarly, what? You did everything you can as a husband and wife. You try to care for everyone, whatever you could do. You did your best, okay? Now leave Allah with the rest. Now finally when that happens, right, they go back, and now Yusuf AS finally meets Binyamin, and now it starts Yusuf AS' plan, okay? Yusuf AS tells Binyamin, look, I'm your brother, and don't grieve for whatever they're about to do, okay? Don't be saddened by, don't be disappointed by what they're about to do right now, okay? So now, subhanAllah, the last thing we'll speak about here is I just want everyone to notice, mashallah, about how amazing is the situation of Yusuf AS and Binyamin, right? It's like Allah Ta'ala is telling you two different scenes. We talked about how similar they were. I want you all to notice how different they are too, okay? When they took Yusuf AS in the beginning, they had a desire to get rid of Yusuf AS, which was bad, right? And when they tried to take Binyamin, they had a desire to help the family, which was good. Okay, so they had a bad desire in the beginning and a good desire here. They said that we will protect him when taking Yusuf AS, which was a lie. And then when they're taking Binyamin here, they will say we will protect him, which is the truth, right? But then Yusuf AS in the beginning, Yaqub AS does send them off. And Yaqub AS, but with Binyamin, he doesn't send them at all, right? It's like the flip, right? And then in the beginning of the story, false evidence is brought after they return, which is the bloodstained shirt. But with Binyamin, it's true evidence comes before they go, which is the baggage being returned. It's like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling a beautiful story here. And if you notice modern storytellers today, modern movies or whatever it might be, they're just taking from what the Quran has always spoke about. Right? May Allah give us all tawfiq and hidayah to appreciate the lessons and benefit from whatever we heard, mashallah. And I apologize for being a little bit longer. Just Yusuf AS story, mashallah, just really gets me in the heart, and I just love speaking about it, mashallah. May Allah give us all tawfiq to appreciate these things and allow us to continue to study the Quran and take away many lessons and benefit for us and for our families, inshallah ta'ala. May Allah keep us all safe throughout this time. Wa sallallahu alayhi wa sallam Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.